You are not explaining because they need clarity. You are explaining because part of you still wants permission from people unqualified to judge your future. Every time you defend your ambition to small-minded people, you place them above you. Every time you explain your discipline to people who never built anything, you make them your jury. Every time you try to make them understand your vision, you expose the weakness you were supposed to bury. Look at Michael Jordan. Before he became the symbol of competitive dominance, he was cut from the varsity basketball team at Laney High School as a sophomore. That rejection was public enough to wound him and private enough to test him. He could have explained. He could have told people the coach was wrong. He could have defended his potential to classmates, family, friends, anyone willing to give him a little emotional permission to believe in himself again. But Jordan did something colder. He trained. He returned with evidence. That is the first law. Rejection is not answered by explanation. It is answered by transformation. Now look at Jay-Z. Before he became a billionaire artist and businessman, major record labels did not see the empire. They did not see the market. They did not see the future value sitting in front of them. The gatekeepers looked at him and decided no. Most men, when the gatekeeper says no, start explaining harder. They try to prove why they deserve entry. They try to convince the people holding the door that they are talented, serious, different, worthy. Jay-Z did something colder. He stopped waiting for permission. He co-founded Rockefeller Records with Damon Dash and Kareem Biggs Burke, creating an independent outlet for his debut album, Reasonable Doubt, after the traditional doors would not open. That was not explanation. That was infrastructure. That was not pleading. That was distribution. That was not, please believe in me. That was, I will build the machine myself. And this is the hidden mechanism most men never understand. When you explain too much, you are not only communicating information, you are negotiating your status. You are telling the other person that their opinion has authority over your movement. You are showing them that their doubt disturbs you. You are admitting that their misunderstanding has emotional power over your direction. And once they sense that, they know exactly where you are weak. Most people do not ask for explanations because they want truth. Sometimes they ask because they want access. They want to see if they can still pull you back into the old version of yourself. They want to know if your ambition is real, or if it can still be interrupted by a raised eyebrow, a sarcastic comment, a cold silence, a family judgment, a friend laughing at your discipline, or society pretending not to notice you. This is why the unsupported man makes the same fatal mistake again and again. He thinks being understood will give him power, but being understood by weak people often makes him easier to sabotage. When you announce your ambition too early, you invite doubt before you have proof. When you explain your discipline to people addicted to comfort, you make your standards available for debate. When you reveal your future to people emotionally invested in your past, you hand them a map of where to attack you. You think you are opening your heart. In reality, you may be opening your control panel. The cost is not small. If you keep explaining yourself to the wrong people, you lose time, you lose focus, you lose emotional control. You lose secrecy, you lose the advantage of moving quietly. But worse than all of that, you lose status in your own mind. You begin treating people who have never built your dream as if they have the right to approve it. You let their confusion become your burden. You let their fear become your delay. You let their small vision become the court where your future is judged. And this is how ambitious men stay trapped. Not because they lack talent, not because they lack hunger, not because they lack intelligence, but because they keep asking small rooms to understand large visions. The room is not supposed to understand you before the result exists. The room is supposed to doubt you. The room is supposed to misread you. The room is supposed to call you unrealistic, intense, strange, arrogant, distant, obsessed, changed. That is what small rooms do when they meet large visions before there is visible proof. Your mistake is believing their reaction is a verdict. It is not a verdict, it is data. Their doubt shows you who cannot see. Their mockery shows you who needs you beneath them. Their confusion shows you who should not receive early access. Their silence shows you where support was never real. Use it all. Do not resent it. Study it. A man becomes powerful when he stops taking human behavior personally and starts reading it strategically. Some people are not against you. They are loyal to the version of you they knew how to manage. When you grow, you disturb their map. When you become disciplined, you expose their excuses. When you become quiet, you remove their access. When you become serious, you make unserious people uncomfortable. Let them be uncomfortable. Your job is not to keep everyone emotionally comfortable with your evolution. Your job is to become what your future requires. This is where Machiavellian realism enters. Power does not wait to be validated. Power creates leverage. Men judge outcomes, not intentions. They respond to appearance, strength, usefulness, proof, consequence, and repeated signal. They do not respect invisible potential when it is begging. They respect potential when it becomes a system. Jordan did not need the room to understand him before he worked. He worked until the room had to update its opinion. Jay-Z did not become powerful by asking the industry to understand him. He became powerful by making himself harder to ignore. That is the difference between a man who wants sympathy and a man who wants power. The weak man explains the wound. The strategic man converts the wound into proof. The weak man says, "Look at what they did to me." The strategic man says nothing, then builds something they cannot explain away. The weak man wants someone to witness his pain. The strategic man wants his pain to produce evidence. And here is the brutal truth. The world does not reward internal conviction, it rewards external signal. Until your ambition produces a visible signal, skill, money, output, ownership, a body of work, a transformed body, a stronger mind, a sharper calendar, a cleaner reputation, people will treat it as noise. This is not always evil, it is human nature. Most people cannot see what is not yet material. They cannot respect what has no shape. They cannot believe in the empire while it is still only a private fire inside your chest. And if you demand belief before proof, you make your future dependent on people who do not have the imagination to see it. That is slavery with softer language. You call it wanting support. But often, it is emotional permission-seeking. You say, "I just want them to understand." No. You want their understanding to remove the loneliness of your path. You want their approval to make discipline feel less heavy. You want their belief to make risk feel safer. You want someone else to bless the version of you that has not been built yet. But the path does not become real when they understand it. The path becomes real when you walk it long enough to create evidence. That is the difference between potential and power. Potential needs belief. Power creates consequences. If you are the man who knows he was built for more, stop confusing emotional discussion with strategic progress. You already know they do not understand you, but your real problem is that you keep returning to the same people, hoping they will finally authorize your next level. If you keep feeding your ambition to people who need you small, you will lose years defending a future you should have been building. Inside Patreon, you get the unfiltered doctrines, deeper breakdowns and private operating principles behind power, silence, discipline, and human nature, so you can stop reacting emotionally and start moving strategically. This is not for men who want comfort. It is for men who are finished asking permission. The decision is yours. Now understand this. Never explain upward to people who have built less than you desire. Never defend your discipline to people addicted to comfort. Never reveal your early vision to people who only respect finished results. Never ask for emotional permission from anyone who benefits from your doubt. And never confuse being understood with being powerful. A man can be understood and still be weak. A man can be misunderstood and still be building an empire. Your goal is not to be understood by everyone. Your goal is to become so clear in your own direction that misunderstanding no longer interrupts execution. That is the real armor, not anger, not coldness, not arrogance. Clarity. When you know where you are going, you stop turning every critic into a checkpoint. You stop treating every doubter like a gatekeeper. You stop needing every person from your old life to sign the passport into your new one. You move silently, consistently, without begging the room to clap before the result exists. But there is a deeper danger most men miss. Some people do not simply misunderstand your ambition. Some people need you small, and until you know the difference, you will keep giving sacred explanations to people who are not confused. They are threatened. So, how do you recognize them? You watch their reaction to your growth. A person who simply does not understand may ask questions, but a person who needs you small will punish your seriousness. They will mock your discipline. They will call your silence arrogance. They will call your standards selfish. They will say you changed. But what they really mean is this: you are becoming harder to control. That is the moment you stop explaining. Because now you are not dealing with confusion. You are dealing with resistance. And resistance does not deserve a speech. It deserves distance. This is especially dangerous for men building with no support. When no one is opening doors for you, when your family does not understand the fire inside you, when your friends laugh at the habits you are using to rebuild yourself, when society ignores your effort because your results are not visible yet, you naturally crave one thing: belief. You want someone to say, "I see it." You want someone to say, "Keep going." You want someone to say, "You are not crazy for wanting more." You want your family to understand why you are distant. You want your friends to respect why you stopped wasting nights. You want people to realize that your silence is not weakness. Your solitude is not arrogance, your discipline is not a phase, and your ambition is not fantasy. But that desire is the trap. Because if you need belief before action, then whoever withholds belief controls your movement. Read that again in your mind. If you need belief before action, whoever withholds belief controls your movement. This is why many ambitious men remain stuck for years. They are not lazy. They are not empty. They are not lacking hunger. They are waiting to feel emotionally authorized. They keep saying, "I just want them to understand." But what they really mean is, "I want their understanding to make my loneliness easier to carry." No one is coming to remove the loneliness from the path that was designed to separate you from your old self. That loneliness is not a punishment. It is a filter. It removes the men who only wanted the identity of ambition without the weight of execution. It removes the men who loved the fantasy of becoming undeniable, but hated the private cost of becoming competent. It removes the men who wanted applause before evidence, comfort before discipline, certainty before risk, and approval before movement. That is why silence feels so heavy at the beginning. Because when you stop explaining, you are forced to face the truth without an audience. No more speeches, no more emotional performances, no more trying to make people understand how serious you are. Only the work remains. And the work does not care how misunderstood you feel. The work does not care who doubted you. The work does not care who failed to clap. The work only asks one question: what have you built today? That question humiliates the old version of you, because the old version wanted witnesses. The new version needs systems. The old version wanted approval. The new version needs proof. The old version explained the plan. The new version documents the evidence. Because once proof exists, approval becomes irrelevant. This is where a man becomes dangerous. Not dangerous to others. Dangerous to every force that expected him to stay predictable. Dangerous to old habits. Dangerous to small rooms. Dangerous to the people who built their comfort around his hesitation. Because once a man stops explaining, his energy returns to him. The hours he spent defending himself become hours of practice. The emotion he spent on doubters becomes fuel for execution. The attention he gave to critics becomes attention invested into skill. The mind once occupied by other people's opinions becomes a command center. And now the game changes. He does not need to prove himself in conversation. He proves himself through accumulation. One skill, one result, one project, one body of work, one visible signal, one quiet improvement after another, until the man they doubted becomes too real to ignore. But this raises another question. If you stop explaining, what do you do when people attack your reputation? What do you do when they misunderstand you publicly? What do you do when silence feels like losing? This is where most men collapse. They hear the insult. They feel the old trigger. They want the last word. They want to correct the narrative. They want to show everyone they are not weak. But that desire is exactly what makes them controllable. Because sometimes the need to defend your reputation is the very thing that damages it. A man who must answer every attack looks less powerful with every response. A man who must correct every misunderstanding becomes a servant to other people's narratives. A man who cannot let a false opinion die without touching it reveals that he is still governed by the crowd. Understand the higher law. If the accusation has no real consequence, ignore it. If the attack comes from someone beneath your mission, starve it. If the misunderstanding lives in a room you do not respect, leave it there. If the people who matter know your character, do not perform innocence for people committed to suspicion. But if the issue affects your work, your family, your money, your legal position, your mission, or your direct responsibility, then speak once. Clearly, briefly, without emotional leakage. Then return to building. This is the balance. Silence is not weakness, but silence without judgment is avoidance. The powerful man knows when to speak. The disciplined man knows when not to. This is the distinction that separates controlled men from strategic men. A controlled man reacts to every insult because he believes reputation is protected by constant explanation. A strategic man understands that reputation is not built by answering every voice. It is built by repeated conduct over time. If someone can make you abandon your work just by misunderstanding you, they do not need to defeat you. They only need to provoke you. That is why you must stop giving cheap access to your emotional system. Every reaction is information. Every defense is information. Every explanation is information. And people who need you small collect information. They learn what makes you angry. They learn what makes you anxious. They learn what makes you justify yourself. They learn which words can pull you out of your frame. Then they use those words whenever your growth makes them uncomfortable. You thought you were explaining, you were training them, you were teaching them which buttons still worked. That ends now. Your new rule is simple. Do not explain yourself to reduce someone else's discomfort with your growth. Explain only when explanation serves responsibility, strategy, or truth. Everything else becomes proof. They doubt your discipline. Let your body, work, and calendar answer. They doubt your ambition. Let your results answer. They call you unrealistic. Let reality answer later. They say you changed? Good. The old version was too available, too reactive, too hungry for approval. Let him disappear. The strongest answer is not always a sentence. Sometimes it is months of silence and a result they cannot explain away. Sometimes it is a portfolio. Sometimes it is money. Sometimes it is skill. Sometimes it is a room you no longer need to enter. Sometimes it is becoming so composed that the people who used to trigger you no longer recognize the man they are speaking to. That is power, not the loud power of argument, the quiet power of evidence. And this is why the addiction to being understood must die. Because as long as you need to be understood, you are still emotionally negotiating with the world. You are still asking people to handle your identity gently. You are still hoping the wrong people will interpret you correctly. You are still treating confusion as something you must fix. But powerful men do not chase perfect interpretation. They build undeniable signal. Machiavelli understood that men judge more by appearances than by reality, because everyone can see what you appear to be, but few can touch what you are. That is why your private intention is not enough. That is why your inner fire is not enough. That is why your invisible potential is not enough. If the world judges signal, then produce signal. If people respect proof, then create proof. If gatekeepers deny access, then build infrastructure. If old rooms cannot hold your future, then outgrow the room. This is not bitterness. This is strategy. Bitterness says, they should have believed in me. Strategy says, their belief was never required. Bitterness says, I will show them because I hate them. Strategy says, I will build because my future demands it. Bitterness keeps the doubter at the center of your life. Strategy removes him from the throne. That is the shift. Stop building to be understood by people from your past. Start building because the man you are becoming requires evidence. Stop using pain as a speech. Turn it into structure. Stop using rejection as a wound. Turn it into training. Stop using doubt as a reason to explain. Turn it into data. The man who doubts you gives you a gift if you are cold enough to use it. He shows you who should not know the early plan. He shows you who should not get emotional access. He shows you who cannot be trusted with fragile beginnings. He shows you whose approval you are still secretly chasing. And if you are honest, that last one hurts the most. Because the deepest humiliation is not that they doubted you. It is that their doubt still mattered. It is that people you claimed were small still had the power to disturb your discipline. It is that you said you were building something great, but one sarcastic comment could take you out of rhythm. It is that you wanted dominance, but still needed permission. This is the wound you must cauterize, not by hating them, not by arguing, not by becoming theatrical and cold, but by withdrawing the privilege of access. Your future is not public property. Your discipline is not a debate. Your ambition is not a group project. Your transformation is not a family vote. Your standards do not need majority approval. If you are the man who is tired of explaining your future to people addicted to your past, stop mistaking conversation for movement. You already know proof is the only language that changes the room. But your problem is that you still leak energy into people who cannot help you build. If you keep defending yourself to those who benefit from your hesitation, you will arrive late to your own life, exhausted, resentful, and still waiting to be understood. Inside Patreon, you get deeper, unfiltered breakdowns on power, frame control, silence, ambition, and the hidden social games people play, so you can protect your energy and build with cleaner strategy. This is not for men who want sympathy. It is for men who are ready to become difficult to manipulate. The decision is yours. From this moment forward, stop treating doubters as judges. They are not judges, they are data. Their doubt shows you the limits of their vision. Their mockery shows you the weakness of their discipline. Their suspicion shows you the poverty of their imagination. Their silence shows you where support was never real. Do not beg data to become approval. Read it, use it, move. When they misunderstand your silence, let them. When they misread your ambition, let them. When they say you changed, accept the accusation. Because you did change. You stopped being available for every opinion. You stopped treating every critic like a court. You stopped turning every doubt into a debate. You stopped carrying the emotional burden of making small people comfortable with a larger version of you. The old version of you needed witnesses. The new version needs systems. The old version wanted approval. The new version needs evidence. The old version explained the plan. The new version builds the proof. The old version asked, "Do they understand me?" The new version asks, "What did I execute today?" That question is the beginning of power. Because execution returns you to reality, not fantasy, not resentment, not emotional theater. Reality. The reality of what you practiced. The reality of what you produced. The reality of what you improved. The reality of what you repeated when no one praised you. The reality of what you became while they were still discussing who you used to be. So stop explaining your ambition. Stop defending your discipline. Stop making your future emotionally available to people addicted to your past. Stop asking small minds to bless large visions. Stop trying to be understood by people who would lose power if you became undeniable. Speak less, build more. Let proof become your language. Let silence become your filter. Let distance become your boundary. Let results become your revenge. And remember this: you do not owe an explanation to people who only feel safe when you are uncertain. You owe yourself execution. Stop begging to be understood. Become impossible to dismiss.